Hey guys, it's Steve from Manfix here. You're listening to Good Friends Better Running Podcast, only on the Counting Out 7 YouTube channel. Tyrone, let's go!
Welcome everybody to a brand new edition of the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. My name is Tyrone, and as always, I am joined by the Moppy to my Perry Saturn, Jay. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you, sir?
I am good. I'm good. Let's just go with that. Everything is good right now.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being good. I think that we're in a situation right now in the world where being good is just about as good as being grand.
Oh, like the new Grand Big Mac? Because that thing is delicious if you haven't tried it yet.
It's just a bigger Big Mac, isn't it?
It is, but for some reason it tastes better. It tastes fresher. It's sloppier, which when you're eating a dirty burger, you want the stuff to fall out the back. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah, I do like a little extra of that mac sauce on my Big Mac. I always do go for that.
Oh, there's tons of mac sauce, pickles, onions, lettuce, 2 all beef patties, cheese, sesame seed bun. It's just a glorious thing. It's grand, if you will.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we're not sponsored by McDonald's this week, but for those of you driving, you probably just hit a U-turn past your closest McDonald's that are in line and in queue as we speak. But with that being said, this week, ladies and gentlemen, we're covering WCW Bash at the Beach, which took place on Sunday, July 12th in San Diego, California at the Cox Arena. We had an attendance of 10,095. This was a co-branded WCW NWO event. And really, I would say this is at the very height of WCW's popularity and success. What would you say?
Do we really call it a co-branded pay-per-view between WCW and NWO? Like, I get it. They were trying to kind of differentiate between the two, but the NWO really was just the faction owned by WCW. It's not like where you would say something from 2002 or 2003 was a co-branded Raw and SmackDown pay-per-view. So I just questioned that one there. But to answer your question, yeah, this is definitely peak WCW. It's they not only were winning the ratings wars, but when you look at the fact that when we get into this event, they had mainstream sports stars involved. Later on in the year, they would have arguably one of the top talk show hosts of all time, Jay Leno. Not in my opinion, but just overall involved. Like, they were getting so much mainstream publicity over all this right now too, that yeah, it's hard to argue with the popularity of the product.
Well, I mean, look at this event on its own. We have Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone on this card. They had just come off of a pretty spirited exchange in the NBA playoffs. So I think that in terms of celebrity involvement in 1998, I mean, you had Mike Tyson on the WWF side. You had the aforementioned basketball players on the other side, plus Jay Leno, as you alluded to. So I feel as though this is one of those years where outside forces and outside entertainment properties were really a big thing in the WWE and the WCW, the wrestling business as a whole. It almost had shades of that original WrestleMania in terms of the huge star power that we got on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I mean, there's no arguing that. It's just crazy to see that you look back, not even 2, maybe 3 years ago prior to this, and wrestling was being held in high school gymnasiums and war memorial centers. Now all of a sudden they're selling out all the stadiums. You can't get tickets quick enough. I feel like every single event was sold out probably within 5 minutes. And this is the old days where you had to call Ticketmaster or you had to wait in line. You couldn't just keep hitting refresh on your phone or your iPad. Believe it or not, kids, that was a thing. You had to call the 800 number, and it was fantastic.
That's right. There was no phone in your pocket. It was on the wall. If you did have a phone in your pocket, it was probably for emergencies, and you really weren't using it all that much. So,
you didn't want to waste your minutes on getting tickets at Ticketmaster.
Yeah, you would have been paying more for the phone bill than you would the tickets. Before we get started into WCW's Bash at the Beach 1998, I do want to briefly touch on something that's going on. This upcoming week, the WWE is going back on the road now. I just watched AEW's presentation of Dynamite from last week. That was their first show back on the road in Miami. It was a pretty solid outing. They had a couple of debuts. They had Aleister Black debut there at the AEW tapings, which was frankly found a little.
You mean Malachi Black, not Aleister Black. Malachi Black.
Well, okay, he's known as Aleister Black, and
no, he's known as Tommy End originally, and then yes, people such as non-European wrestling marks would know him as Aleister Black, but to us real fans, he is Tommy End and will always be Tommy End.
Okay, so to 80% of the audience, he's known as Aleister Black. So he debuted at the AEW tapings, and I thought it was frankly a little anticlimactic. I thought it was really bizarre that he came out and everybody knew who he was in terms of the commentary team. I thought it would have made a much better impact for him to come in and be kind of not it's sort of a mystery surprise. I didn't really understand the logic between immediately knowing everything about him. Like, I understand that you don't want to play novice into the idea that you don't know what's going on in the industry, but at the same time, I think sometimes it's a little bit too much of, oh, there's that guy. Let's just try to build up some suspense. Maybe we wait till we get his first promo before we hear about what he's all about. What do you think about that?
Oh, I completely agree. I thought the dumbest thing was when they called him Tommy End. They're like, we know him as Tommy End, but my God, that is Malachi Black. I was like, really? You guys
How do you know his name?
You guys already know his goddamn name. And from my understanding, it was a legit surprise to JR, who didn't even know he was in the goddamn building, but yet they know his name. They know who he is. He's already signed his contract. He's this person. I kind of would have preferred them to be like, kind of like what they did with Scott Hall back in the NWO. It's like, you know who he is, but you don't know why he's there.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I just think that sometimes we're a little too quick to give out all the information. I think that has something to do with the society we're in today with, social media and things of that nature. Everybody wants everything immediately. I think sometimes it builds a much better story when you give people, little crumbs here and there, and then you build up to something down the road. But speaking of the road, the WWE is going back on the road. We have SmackDown this coming Friday, which will be in front of a live sold-out house. And they're going back on tour. In fact, they just announced some more dates going into September and October. So we're back on the road full-time, seemingly. And I just wanted to see your thoughts about it. Do you think it's going to change the product? Are you going to be excited to see what they come up with on their first live show back? I mean, SmackDown, it might be a very interesting show in terms of where we go in the summertime and the SummerSlam season. But I don't know. Do you think it's going to change the presentation, or do you think it's just going to be kind of, okay, we got the crowds back. Okay, this is great. We're watching for a couple of weeks, and then we all just sort of tune back out again?
I can tell you, me personally, I will probably PVR SmackDown, watch it the next day, and then probably not tune in again until you make me watch SummerSlam with you, because that's what you do. We watch the big ones. We talk about the big ones. But I don't care. I truly don't care. The roster itself is trying. They cut so many goddamn people that, yes, the crowds will make a difference. There's no doubt about that. Hearing fans in the stadiums will make a difference. I don't know if it's necessarily the difference that they want, though, because they're trying to have somebody like a Roman Reigns be the bad guy and get booed. I think that's going to backfire on them completely. I think you get them in front of a bunch of live fans, especially like a Chicago audience or a Philadelphia audience. They are going to love the hell out of that character. Whereas somebody like, if he's against an Edge might get booed. Everybody loves Edge. They love seeing him come back. But now that he's actually back on a semi-full-time basis, I don't know if it's going to go over as well. I think that this could fully backfire on them, the way that they have built up all of these superstars and trying to get them with the piping in of the crowd noise in the Thunderdome. I don't know if it'll match up with a live crowd. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
It makes 100% sense to me. And that's actually the next point I was going to bring up is it's going to be very interesting to see who is over and who is cheered, who's a babyface, who's a heel based on the live crowd reactions. I have to say, I don't know if I necessarily agree with your assessment about Roman Reigns. I do think you are right that this will be a character that's much more accepted by the audience. But I think that there's a large segment of the WWE universe or crowd base, whatever you want to call them. I think that they just don't like Roman Reigns. And I think that it doesn't really matter what you do with that character, how you retool it, how you reshape it. There's a large segment of that audience that just doesn't want it on their TV screens. And I personally think this is great work that he's doing. I think it's some of the best work that he's done in his career. But with that being said, I definitely think that there is room for the possibility that he's going to be still booed as much as ever, which I guess is kind of what they're looking for here. So at the same time, it's really hard. It's going to be really hard to see where we come out of this in terms of who's over and who's not. I think Edge will be very over, maybe in the beginning, and maybe by week 3, week 4, he started to get booed a little bit. I don't really know where we're going with this. It's going to be interesting.
Let me throw a couple of names out at you, and you let me know if you think that they're going to get booed or cheered, because I'm very curious to see how fans are going to react to Drew McIntyre right now. I think if it were last year, he would have been so over, the face of the place. Everybody loves him. I think that he's getting that John Cena, Roman Reigns treatment right now, where he is being shoved down everyone's throat, and I feel like he could get booed.
I think that his booking, I haven't watched a ton of current product, I'll be completely honest. Since WrestleMania, I haven't really watched a whole lot, but I do keep up with what's going on, and I have an idea where things are going. And I feel as though Drew has been so poorly booked since WrestleMania. Even beforehand, he was going in as the champion, then he lost the title, then he got the rematch, then he faced it, and then he's going back and forth. I feel he's almost at a point now where he's a bit in limbo. I think he had so much momentum going into, as you said, WrestleMania 36, my apologies. And when he finally did win the title from Brock Lesnar, it was a huge moment. It was a moment that everybody was really excited for. Obviously would have been much better in front of a live crowd, but ever since then and through the Thunderdome era, it really hasn't done Drew any favors. So I don't really know where he is right now. He's kind of like Geneva for me. He's kind of in the middle.
I'm just going to quickly spitball a couple of names, and you tell me boo or cheer, okay?
Okay.
Seth Rollins.
Boo.
I disagree. Bianca Belair.
Cheer?
Yeah, I feel like that's a safe one. The Usos.
I don't know. I feel like they're going to get kind of like a blah reaction.
As long as nobody from Mad is in the audience, I feel like they'll be fine.
Yeah, well, he's obviously got
that's
personal issues and.
Yeah, but I still had to make one comment, but I'll move on. Otis. My thing with Otis is I don't think anybody will care.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will care either. I think they tried really hard with that Money in the Bank thing, but again, during pandemic era, it just didn't do anything. So I agree with you.
Two more names are going to throw at you right now. Rhea Ripley.
I think cheer.
I agree. And finally, the almighty Bobby Lashley.
I think boo / indifference, to be honest.
I think X-Pac. I think there's so many people that just don't care about that guy, especially with who he's going up against. Like, do you really think that Kofi Kingston stands a chance at Money in the Bank? Does anybody really think that? No. Should he? He's a former champion. He should be built up as so, but he's also just been in the New Day for the last, 6 years, 7 years? So I don't look at Kofi as a legitimate challenger. I hate to say it. It's not going to be the 7-second squash that Lesnar had with him, but there's no chance in hell that Kofi walks out of Money in the Bank with the title.
I agree with that. And I also think that you kind of just hit the nail right in the head in terms of Kofi's title reign. Did he deserve to be champion? Absolutely. Does he likely deserve another title shot? Yeah, there's an argument to be made that he does deserve to be have another run. But as the New Day character, I never bought into it. And I thought that his sort of indifference or lack of stakes in his title run really, really took the shine off for me. I think that he's an incredible athlete, and on his own as a champion would have made a ton of sense. But as part of the New Day, I don't buy it.
Now, before we get into the show, there are two things that I want to ask you that you didn't know I was going to do this, but we had two people who were recently released that have now since been brought back. Samoa Joe as the kind of enforcer on NXT, and Zelina Vega, of all people, brought back to SmackDown. Already thrown in the Money in the Bank match. Thoughts? What do you think of either of that?
I'm not overly surprised by either. I mean, they're incredibly talented. I like that they brought Samoa Joe back. I frankly thought it was a bit of a head scratcher that he got released in the first place. So I'm happy that he's back. If he's happy being there, I would like to see him make an in-ring return. We'll see if he gets cleared to do so. But he has a lot still left to accomplish in his career. I definitely think he has the ability to be a world champion and to have a lengthy title reign if he's booked correctly. As for Selena Vega, yeah, it makes sense. And I think actually, in a weird way, even though she got released for, there was that talk about her endorsing unionization and things of that nature. I think that it might have actually done her a service because she was so closely tied with Andrade and then some of the other people in that faction that she was managing. That kind of fizzled out. Andrade's now in AEW. So I almost think that her having time off TV might have done her a favor.
I'm not going to argue that at all. I was quite happy to see both of them come back. The only thing I didn't like was Zelina Vega being thrown in the Money in the Bank match already. It is what it is. I know they do that all the time. They put people inside of a tournament match or a rumble or anything like that where there's a stake on the line, and they just get in there. It's just booking that they do. I didn't like that, but yeah, that's just me. And of course, there was some big breaking news the other day. I don't know if you saw that, but Bayley out 9 months, injured herself training. I'm a little butthurt about that one. I'm not going to lie. To me, she has kind of been one of the MVPs of this era.
I did hear about that, and it is terrible. I mean, she's such a great talent, and I do agree with you. Without question, a pillar of this era of WWE right now. She is really coming to her own as this heel character. So it's a shame when anybody goes down due to injury, but I definitely feel like she's going to be sorely missed in the next coming weeks and months.
Well, do we have anything else to cover before we hop into this wonderful WCW pay-per-view?
Well, I think we just briefly need to touch on the fact that we and the Counted Out 7 family have started a budding relationship with the Barrie Wrestling promotion. We are very, very excited to move forward with them. And we have some very exciting news coming up in the next few weeks to share with all of our listeners and all of our followers. We're not quite ready to announce it yet, but once we do, we will keep you up to date on everything that's going on. They are a tremendous promotion, and we are very excited to share what is coming up down the pike with them.
Just a quick trip up to 400. Been there a couple of times, seen a couple of great matches there. I'm excited.
As am I, very much so. Thank you very much, Tyler, for putting that together for us.
Kudos, sir. Kudos.
Well, as discussed, we are turning the tables over to Tyrone this week as we are going to be rebooking the WCW Bash at the Beach 1998 pay-per-view. Now, as previously discussed at the top of the show, there were some pretty exciting moments and things happening in the company. This is maybe the height of the wrestling boom in the 1990s. Certainly, one of the most successful years in terms of financial success for both companies in history up to this point. The big thing that coming into this is 6 days previous at the WCW Monday Nitro in Atlanta, Georgia at the Georgia Dome, we saw Hollywood Hulk Hogan defend his championship against Bill Goldberg, who was the United States champion at the time. And lo and behold, Goldberg's undefeated streak continues as he wins the World's Heavyweight Championship against Hollywood Hogan, going into this particular pay-per-view 6 days later. You have any thoughts about that title win?
It was dumb. Not dumb to put the title on Bill. Made all the sense in the world at the time. Dumb to give it away on free TV. That should have been main event of Starrcade or Slamboree, even Halloween Havoc, any one of their pay-per-views, really. They could have put it in the Georgia Dome still, made tons of money at the gate, but then also on pay-per-view buy rates. But for some reason, they gave it away on free TV with like no build, completely no build. It was just announced that it was happening.
Yeah, it was 4 days previous on Thunder that they announced it was happening. I do think that there is an argument to be made that he should have ran through a bunch of the NWO members to get to Hogan. I understand why they did it.
But he did that after, which made even less sense.
I know he did that afterwards. It made no sense. I completely agree with you. I've always been of the thinking that it should have been maybe Halloween Havoc 98 that this happened. Then we would have gotten rid of that horrible Hogan Warrior match. I do think that there is an argument to be made that Goldberg's streak should have started later in the year and therefore maybe gone through the better part of 99 until maybe you have him drop the title at Halloween Havoc or Starrcade 99 instead of. Really, his title reign was relatively short. I mean, it started in June, or rather July.
So 6 months. 5 months. Beginning of July to the end of December. So pretty much 6, but yeah, I get it. Like, you kind of think of him as having this crazy, long, monstrous title reign, but if I'm not mistaken, that was his only title reign, too. Was it not in WCW, or did he have another one?
I think he might have had another one, but it goes to show you how memorable it was that neither one of us can really recall. I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times, that once you cooled Goldberg's jets with that loss to Nash at Starrcade 98, I really don't remember anything that Goldberg did of any significance other than that really great angle he did with Bret Hart in Toronto with the steel plate and all that kind of thing. That was really, really cool. But post-streak, I don't have that many memories of Goldberg in WCW.
Well, funnily enough, you can kind of say the same thing, that after the streak, the best thing they did with Goldberg was that feud with Bret Hart. And the only good thing that they did with Bret Hart in WCW was that feud with Goldberg. Those two are two of the biggest box office draws of the era, and WCW just completely screwed it up with both of them.
Well, I mean, if you're alluding to the actual angle that took place in Toronto, then I'm with you. I mean, obviously the match that they had post Bret winning the championship in November '99, and then of course
look. We all know I'm not the biggest Bret Hart fan, but no, I'm not excited to see him get kicked in the head and concussed. I'm not that much of a dickhead. I'm mainly just talking about the angle and the build-up, not the match.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, there was a big separation there. I mean, that angle in Toronto happened in March of 1999, and then they didn't actually wrestle until December of 1999, and it was kind of dropped at that point. So whatever happened in March never really played too much of a part into what happened in December. But
and that's the thing about WCW booking, which we will definitely touch on this show. Either it was complete long-term, where it was being set up for months, sometimes even years, like Sting and Hogan, or it was announced anywhere from 2 to 5 days ahead of time, and there was no build-up, and it would still be like a semi-main event to a main event with just nothing happening beforehand.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. This is WCW in 1998, 1999. So I'm just curious. I know we're going to get into this rebooking right now. Before we get started on the rebook, I do have a technical question for you about this rebook. Are we going to see that obligatory 10-minute recap of the show that we've already bought and paid money for on pay-per-view at the top of this one?
Yeah, of course. It's 15 minutes this time, and then Mean Gene Okerlund interviews every single cruiserweight on the roster first.
1-900-909-9900. All right, sounds good. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into the WCW Bash at the Beach pay-per-view here, 1998. Would you like me to start us off, sir?
Oh, yeah. I want you to go match by match because this is going to be fun.
Okay, well, we are starting off with Raven with Riggs and Lodi versus Saturn in a Ravens Rules match to start off our card.
I wonder what happens here, Jay. I wonder what I did here.
I'm assuming you kept it the same.
I did keep this one the same. Obviously, Raven wins. It's Ravens Rules. If you're having a Ravens Rules match, it should be completely 100% foreshadowing the fact Raven's not going to lose, especially when he's got flock members with him. This one, it's just essentially a 2-on-1 handicap match where Lodi and Riggs beat the living hell out of Saturn. Raven even flows him. You get the win. It's all you needed. It keeps Raven strong. Doesn't make Saturn look weak because he's essentially taking on 3 different guys. Doesn't hurt anybody, but Raven keeps the momentum, and the leader of the flock moves on.
Okay, so I'm a little confused here. So you're saying because it's his stick, he automatically needs to win?
Yeah, 100%. It's Raven's rules. He should always win.
So the Undertaker should have won every casket match he was ever in.
No. But that's not called Taker's rules. This is called Raven's rules, where if he wanted to, he could do whatever he wanted and add anything or take anything away from the match rules. He can do what he... It's like the fucking Duchess of Queensberry match. You didn't know what it was, but you knew Regal was going to win because how could he not?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I kind of feel like if it's that on the nose about it, then maybe you need to have a different stick. But no, I guess. Okay, if it's staying the same, then I'm fine with it.
Damn right. Raven is the WCW Goldust to me. He's always going to win.
Yes. Next up, we have Guerrero going up against Kidman.
Next match on the card, we have Billy Kidman going up against Juventud Guerrera, with Billy Kidman going over this time, though. I switched the finish. I prefer Kidman over Juvi. Always have. It was a kind of a throwaway cruiserweight match. Great match, but Kidman is going to come out strong, hit the shooting star press, get the win. We move on to the next cruiserweight down the line.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it was a decent match at the time. Yeah, that's fine. I don't see any reason to change it either. Makes sense to put Kidman over as well. I feel like Juventud at this time had been kind of given his spotlight for quite a while, so giving Kidman the opportunity to climb the ladder makes some sense. So yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I figured you would be all right with that one. And why don't you tell me what the next one on the card is, Jake? Because I feel like this is where it gets fun.
I really hope this doesn't stay. Stevie Ray defeated Chavo Guerrero Jr. by submission in a singles match.
Next up on the card, we have Stevie Ray going 1-on-1 with Booker T for the WCW Television Championship.
Okay. Yeah, this makes sense to me. I like this a lot. Walk me through the match.
So it was around this time. I think it was just shortly after. So Stevie Ray had just come back from injury. Booker T was about to go take time off anyway. So I already had Stevie Ray join the NWO at this time. It's WCW booking. I can't tell you how he got there fully because I can't even remember how he ended up in the NWO at some point. But he is in the NWO. He comes out, turns against his brother when he returns, beats the living crap out of him after Booker had won the best of 7 match series with, I believe it was Finlay. Stevie Ray comes out. So all that interference with Stevie Ray and Bret Hart in that tournament does not happen until Stevie Ray comes out, turns on his brother, beats the living crap out of him. You get that beautiful blood feud of brother versus brother, which you and I have spoken about a few different times on this show. And when that is done right, it is done perfectly because there's already the built-in chemistry. You know the person, you grew up with the person. So why the hell not? And I'm gonna have Stevie Ray go over Booker T and win the WCW Television Championship because we know Booker is leaving television. He's injured. He's moving on. So Stevie Ray literally beats the living hell out of him in a pretty one-sided match. Hits him with the slapjack. That's it. Stevie Ray, new television champion. Booker T off TV for a while.
I'm actually fine with all of this. I think this is really good booking on your part. I will correct you briefly, though. It was Booker T versus Chris Benoit in the best of 7 tournament.
Right. Sorry. We all know that sometimes that name slips my mind.
No, that's completely fine. Can't remember everything. It's really hard especially in this era, it's really hard to remember details about everything with so much going on with all 3 companies. But no, I think that this is a great booking choice. I definitely felt as though we never really got a definitive match, and it would make sense for it to happen here if the turn happened relatively quickly. You have the match happen for the title, and then you give heat to Booker T, or rather to Stevie Ray, who's turned and joined the NWO, and you give him the title. I think it makes all the sense in the world. Then you can build to that return and put the title back on Booker in a couple of months.
Well, that's it. When Booker comes back, he's going to be a completely over babyface. Not that he wasn't already. Like, he was definitely starting to get over. Harlem Heat was always over, whether it be heel or babyface. They got the proper reaction they always should have gotten. So this makes sense to me to have Booker come back in, I don't know, 2-3 months looking for revenge against his brother. Stevie Ray just kind of brags about how he took him out. Like, he's in the NWO, and at this point we were getting weird with the NWO because it was Wolfpack, it was Hollywood. Hollywood should have been the stronger one, but it never really was after the split. You look at who was in NWO Hollywood, other than Hogan, you had what? Vincent, The Disciple, Scott Norton, Stevie Ray. You didn't really have the big stars in there until Scott Hall would come back. Steiner would kind of join. Jarrett. This is when the NWO just started to tank for me.
They had Horace, so that was one thing.
Of course. How could I forget about young Horace Hogan?
Yes. Yeah, he had a squash melon for a head, didn't he?
I mean, that's honestly the only thing I remember about the man. That, and I think he wore a vest trying to look like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, I do get your point. And then we broke off into NWO Hollywood. Then we had the NWO Hollywood B team, all this kind of stuff. It just got ridiculous. Then we had LWO, which I know you love, and I loved LWO too, but it was just so many WOs. NWO.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Wolfpack was a goddamn thing at this point already, was it not?
Yeah.
Were we not?
Been around for about a month and a half
yeah,
at this point.
with the coolest fucking theme music that the two NWOs to me were some of the coolest theme music that WCW ever did.
100%. And it's funny too, because the NWO theme was actually just a stock theme that was sitting in the Turner library to use for, video packages, commercials, what have you. It was never actually written by anybody for the NWO. So that's kind of cool that they were able to find that, and it became such a famous song written by Frank Shelley.
Also, a little fun fact, the Wolfpack theme actually debuted on Thunder, one of the only good things to ever happen on WCW Thunder.
I kind of like Thunder. I like that old set. It was kind of weird. It was like this industrial metal. I don't even really know what the theme of the Thunder set was. I mean, do you remember it had that ramp and that metal?
Yeah, and then there was just kind of blue and silver and black everywhere. It was really strange.
Yeah, it didn't have any kind of theme at all.
Don't get me wrong. When Thunder first started, it was fine. It was always clearly the B show. But as we've stated before, growing up in Canada, we didn't get Nitro Live. We had to wait a couple of days. If we were lucky, TSN would air it at like 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Whereas we got Thunder. It was on TBS. It was available to us here. So it was pretty much what we watched. And I would watch it mostly for recaps of what happened on Nitro.
Yeah, it was standard. It was standard sort of destination or scheduled viewing for us at the time. I mean, it was on every Thursday night, and you knew where you could find you with a bag of chips and a soda or what have you. So yeah, absolutely. I do think
every Thursday night, 8:05 Eastern PM. It was always weird to me that it started at the 05s.
Yeah, and then I used to watch Saturday night at 6:05s too.
Oh God, yeah, on the fucking soundstage. That was one of my favorite sets ever because the ring was spinning in circles at times. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, and they had like that electrical robotic arm in the open, and like they were building the perfect wrestler, I guess. And then they had that sort of futuristic set where you had the door open with the smoke and all that come out of it, the dry ice. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that as well. I want them to put those on the network. Let's get those on the network, please.
There's some, but they're the old ones, like the really old ones from, I think, 92, 93, where it's pretty much Paul Heyman on commentary and then on the microphone.
Exactly. No, I want the ones from 96, 97. I want the superstars from 1996 and 1997. Please, if you're listening, I know you're dropping them. You're getting there. We're in 94 for superstars, but let's get to 96, please. Come on, hurry up.
Just for Jay's sake. That way I don't have to hear him bitching about it anymore. Just fucking do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a good booking choice. Next up, we have Eddie Guerrero defeating Chavo Guerrero in a hair versus hair match. And judging by the trend of this pay-per-view thus far, I'm thinking this is staying.
Why do you have fucking Chavo Guerrero lose a hair match? The man didn't really have hair. That's like when Kurt Angle lost the hair match and he had to shave his head. Oh no, you have to go down an inch worth of hair. This was dumb. I'm sorry. So the next match on the card is Chavo Guerrero beating Eddie Guerrero in a hair versus hair match.
Oh, that's funny. This is so dumb. We're going to have the exact same.
Yeah, well, at least Eddie has hair. We get rid of the mullet. And then he gets that wonderful haircut that he ended up getting in like 2004 anyway.
Yeah,
we're just speeding up the process.
Terrible. I hate this. This is so terrible. Oh my God. Yes, I'll have
the match. The match is not bad, but I mean, if you're gonna have a hair versus hair match, at least have the dude with hair lose.
I guess so. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. It's just sometimes you make me laugh.
Yeah, the match itself is staying the same, except Chavo's beating Eddie. That's literally the only
and that's
difference.
The way it should have been. Frankly,
yeah.
I mean, if you're
Chavo was the younger star, he needed the rub a little bit. Like he was known, but he was mainly in the Cruiserweight division. Eddie had already had feuds with some really big name stars. Why not let Chavito get the win?
I don't know if Eddie was as over a star as you kind of think he is at this point. He's known, but he's not as over as he would be a year later, or especially 2 years later in the WWF. But I do agree with you that if you're going to do this angle, then just have Chavo go over. That I completely agree with that. And I'm just wondering, is Pepe involved at all?
Oh, Pepe helps him get the pin. He pins him with Pepe, so it's almost like when Too Much beat Al Snow and Head by putting Head and Shoulders on them. It's kind of like Pepe beating Eddie.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You got to add a little comedy to it. I guess technically you could have had Eddie beat Chavo, but kind of pin Pepe, and then you had to shave the wooden horse's hair. That kind of would have been fun too.
Yeah, no, without question. Actually, that would have been really funny if they had shaved the horse too.
That just came to me right now. I should have just done that because that would have made you laugh even harder, I feel.
Maybe you could have loaded a baguette with a steel pipe as well.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Fucking baguettes. Don't even want to eat them anymore now.
Are we on to the next one there, pal?
Oh, yeah, let's go to the next one because this is a real barn burner.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Next up, we have Conan with Lex Luger and Kevin Nash defeating Disco Inferno with Alex Wright. Oh, the sides are really even on that one, eh?
I don't understand this booking at all whatsoever. I almost wanted to keep it just as a giant fuck you to this, but I couldn't. I couldn't even do that. So next match on the card is Conan K-Dog going one-on-one with Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We are finally giving Bret what he needs, and that is a distinctive victory, starting with some mid to upper card guys, but Bret's about to just start running through people. He's going to go all through the lower NWOs, the lower card, like the Disco Infernos, if you will, even the Eddie Guerreros, the Chris Jerichos. He's going to burn through all of them, demanding that he get a world title match against Bill Goldberg, trying to build to that, constantly doing the same thing that he was doing before, where he feels like he's being screwed, but he's going to keep winning. He may not get to that title shot for quite a while, but this is what we're doing with Bret Hart right now.
So you're essentially building a streak for Bret.
I am building a streak for Bret in the way that they may not all be clean victories. He may even have a DQ loss here and there when he gets frustrated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're not going like 100-0 for Bret Hart. We're just actually doing what they should have done and keeping him strong.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I mean, I think we talked about this earlier when we first booked some of 98 or rather 97 and then going into 98. We have talked about this a little bit that having Bret come out and be a much stronger impact on the card, I think made a lot more sense than what they actually did. I had booked Starrcade 97 and I had put him in the ring with Savage, and then you had actually done Slamboree 98 and kept that Bret Savage match. So he, in both cases, came out on top with, going over a very definitive, established superstar. So I do like the idea of this match, and I also think you'd get a really good match out of it. The in-ring would be quite well worked. Walk me through this. How are we getting there?
So it's a really fast-paced match. You have Conan kind of taking the lead at the beginning, kind of with a street brawl kind of feel that he would have, because Conan was great at brawling and the lucha style. So you turn it into a bit of a brawl. Bret ends up getting the upper hand after a low blow behind the referee's back to Conan. Then he ends up putting him in his normal moves. We see the elbow off the second rope. We see their side Russian leg sweep. We even get the figure 4 around the pole, but we break it at 10. Bret then just keeps getting dominated, or Bret just keeps dominating at that point. Lots of stomps, lots of suplexes. Bret ends up putting him in the sharpshooter. 1, 2, 3, that's your victory. Unfortunately, we don't get the Tequila Sunrise, but you're getting Bret Hart going over Conan, which I know probably makes you happy. Again, it does not hurt Conan. He is always going to be a bigger star because he's wearing the NWO red and black. Bret Hart is Bret Hart. As much as I don't always like him, he is one of the best ever. He is the excellence of execution. So to lose to a man like that will not hurt Conan at all.
No, I agree with you. So I take it that Bret is a heel at this point then again.
As far as I'm concerned, when Bret Hart is in WCW, Bret Hart should just always be a heel. Bret is a better heel than a babyface.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I will say that I do think that when he came in, he was a babyface, and rightfully so after Montreal. But they kept him. I don't know. I feel like they turned him heel too fast in WCW. They didn't really do a whole lot right with him to begin with, but I kind of do feel like there was something to be said for him keeping babyface. Like he suddenly joins the NWO. It's just so bizarre to me that he was in the NWO to begin with, and he was coming out to the NWO theme and everything else, as alluded to earlier. So, no, but if he's a
coming
heel,
coming out to the NWO theme, but not wearing NWO colors, still rocking the pink and black. If you looked at him, you would have no idea he was in the fucking NWO. But the music hit, you knew.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think for the purposes of this match, it makes sense for him to be heel, so I'm fine with it.
Good, glad, grand, awesome. I think it's time to move on to the next one, Jay. What's the next one on the original match card?
The next one is another barn burner. We have the Giant defeating Kevin Green.
So then the next match on the card that I have here, Jay, is Rey Mysterio defeating Chris Jericho for the Cruiserweight Championship.
Okay, so this is staying the same as well?
Yeah, it's staying the same, but in all honesty, I can't have the Giant and Kevin Green on this pay-per-view. It shouldn't have been on the pay-per-view in the first place. Kevin Green is a goddamn football player who had, 3 or 4 matches max? And the Giant at this point was so green himself, he should not have been the one in the ring with him to help carry him. This was just a ridiculous booking, and I will never get my head around it.
So what you're saying is that Kevin Green was facing the Jolly Green Giant because they were both.
Yes, it was green versus green. It was like fucking forest green versus lime green, if you will.
Yeah, I don't agree with you only because Kevin Green was an established star in the NFL. So I do think that it made sense to have him on the card. I mean, if you can get that kind of exposure again.
Okay. No, I get that. But knowing what the main event of this show is, did you remember that Kevin Green was on this card? Because I did not.
I don't think anybody did. I do agree with you that maybe.
So if you want to use Kevin Green, use him the way that you did previously, where you had him and Mongo teaming up against Arn and Flair. That made sense.
Yeah,
This did not make sense.
I agree with that. I think if you're going to have him, if you're going to utilize him, then have him on a card that's not already star-studded with, like, sometimes more is more, or sorry, more is less. I don't need everything. Like, there's almost like you're putting too much on this card now. Yeah, maybe you wait until this match. Maybe you do it at Road Wild or something like that. Or you build to it.
But it probably would have gone over better at a Road Wild or a Hog Wild or anything like that, because let's be real. A lot of people that were at that show were a lot of manly men on motorcycles who probably were football fans. So they would have given Kevin Green a much better reaction than in a stadium where people are mainly just waiting to watch Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone go against each other.
Yeah, for sure. I think also there is an argument to be made that, had you built for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you could have maybe just had this on Nitro, as a main event, and then it doesn't necessarily have to turn into anything. Most main events on Nitro end up becoming schmozzes every week anyway. So you could just have a big, have them go in the ring, do a couple of moves, and then have a big breakup with the NWO come out or something like that. You could have Kevin Green being on it, remember, the Wolfpack or something like that.
Exactly. You could treat it like so many different celebrity appearances at WrestleManias. I guess at 14, Mike Tyson, hands down the biggest name there. But I still remember that Pete Rose was there. I still remember that whole thing. It's not the main thing that you remember because of the whole Austin and Tyson thing, but you remember it. If there were celebrities involved, you usually remember them. You look at WrestleMania 11. Obviously, Lawrence Taylor, giant thing there. But I still remember that Pam Anderson and Jenny McCarthy and Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Nicholas Turturro were all there. Or was Turturro 10? Did I just screw that up?
No, Nicholas Turturro was 11.
That's the thing. And I can remember all that shit, no problem. I cannot tell you that Kevin Green was on this card. And you know what? Tomorrow, I'll probably forget again.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. I agree with you. So I'm not going to argue on this. I think that it makes sense for you to delay it. I don't think that the match necessarily shouldn't have happened ever, but I think there could have been a better placement for it. So if you're going to go ahead to Mysterio and Jericho, is the match staying exactly the same?
Exactly the same. No need to walk through it. Everybody's probably seen it. We're staying the exact same.
Okay, that's fine by me. Sounds good. So what do you have next? All right, I guess on the actual card, we had Bret Hart versus Booker T here. So I think that you probably have something in
Clearly, next match on the card is the Giant defeating Kevin Green.
Oh, my God.
I'm just fucking with you. Absolutely, I'm kidding with you. No. So the next match on the card is Scott Hall taking on Kevin Nash. Because the following night on Nitro was when the two of them finally really exploded. There were returns. Kevin Nash was attacked by Scott Hall when it looked like they were going to jump Hogan. Hall aligned with Hogan, and we had Nash. Essentially, I moved this up to the Georgia Dome one because there was a bigger crowd there. Yes, you were getting the world title match, but if you have the Georgia Dome booked with 50,000 people in there, why not give them as much as you can? Yes, you just said that less is more sometimes. I feel like on a Nitro, why the hell not have this happen in the top of one of the hours? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that more is less sometimes, but not always. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, especially when you do have a big building book like this. Then why not make some big, have some big moments transpire on the show? So I do agree with you that if you're going to do this, then absolutely, by all means, do it on Nitro. I think you're going to have a bigger audience watching it on Nitro anyway. So I'm completely fine with that. The only thing with me is, to me, this is kind of like now the same thing as Goldberg Hogan on Nitro. So you're only giving people 6 days to know that they're going to see Hall and Nash on pay-per-view. I feel like maybe that needed a bit of a bigger build than just a week's notice.
I'm pretty sure that you have done a lot of rebooking where you're like, hey, I need to get in the mindset of Attitude Era booking in 98. I'm in the mindset of 98 WCW booking right now, so this makes sense.
Yeah, okay. If that's your argument, I'll take it. I think that's very fair. No argument.
So this is just a hard-hitting grudge match. This is two real-life best friends beating the living fuck out of each other, because as we have heard multiple times, you always hit your friends harder. You work snug, you end up beating the crap out of them because you love them and you know you can trust them. So this is just not a technical match at all. This is just a slugfest. There is punches, there is kicks, there is color from headbutts. Everything that you want to see is happening in here, because let's be real, nobody wants to see Kevin Nash and Scott Hall in a 20-minute technical match. Hold on, I need to take a sip of water. Refreshing. So I have Scott Hall going over Kevin Nash. Hall never really got that big definitive run in WCW singles wise. He was a television champion. I think he was a United States champion, but he never really got that main event singles run. He had feuds with Savage and this and that, but let's be real. When you think of who the bigger star of the two was, you think Kevin Nash. So I thought, why the hell not? Like, we know that Nash is probably going to go on to still beat Goldberg's streak down the line. No big deal. Whatever. Scott Hall ends up turning again because, that's what we do. Turns happen in wrestling, just like stoplights change. It's an inevitable thing. So Scott Hall is going to beat Kevin Nash clean just after a blood feud. Kevin Nash goes down. Scott Hall keeps him for the pin. 1, 2, 3. There's your winner.
Yeah, I think this is fine. Yeah, I have no problems with this. I do think there's an argument to be made that throughout their careers, Kevin Nash was always a bigger star than Scott Hall in terms of his exposure on the card, and whether it's in WWF or WCW. So I think that it's not going to hurt Nash any to do the job to Hall here at all. And of course, it's not. This is just start of the feud, and we're not going to blow this off now. Maybe we'll blow it off in a few months' time, I would assume. But no, I think this is good. I'm fine with this booking 100%. And for Nash to do the job to Hall, I think that works quite well, actually.
I would argue that the Diamond Stud was a bigger star than Oz, personally, or Vinny Vegas.
It's sort of a lateral move, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he had to have a moment in his career where he's a bigger name anyway. Scott Hall's a former AWA champion, I think just tag champ, but still held gold there. Everybody knew him. He was chiseled as fuck back then, whereas Kevin Nash at that point was like throwing dudes out of a bar. So, yes, you're... What?
I was going to say Scott Hall was never Super Shredder.
Oh, fuck off. He also wasn't in Magic Mike trying to do jumping jacks and not being able to move his legs.
That's true, but he was in the movie.
That's true, and I've actually seen both Magic Mikes, and I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed them thoroughly.
I've only seen the first one. Is the second one worth a look?
I mean, is it worth a look? Well played on the wordplay there, but yes, I actually didn't hate it. It was very, very easy on the eyes, if you will.
Okay. Maybe I'll see if it's not on demand or something like that. Alrighty, well, this is where I feel like we are, as the old saying goes, the rubber meets the road. I feel like we are going to get an upset win here. I feel like the world is going to change. The world is going to end. The world is going to stop. Because next up on the card, we have Goldberg, a newly minted World Heavyweight Champion Goldberg, who, again, just won the championship 6 days previous at the Georgia Dome over Hollywood Hogan, going up against the NWO's Kurt Hennig. And I have a feeling I know where you're going with this. I'm probably going to lose my mind. So please, indulge me.
I mean, 6 days is a respectable title reign, isn't it? We've had multiple people who have held it for either around that or even less than. I think of David Arquette. I think of Vince Russo, Vince McMahon, The Miz most recently. I don't think 6 days is a bad title reign at all, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
The next match on the card is Bill Goldberg defending the WCW Championship against the one and only Curt Hennig. And ladies and gentlemen, this match stays the same. Bill Goldberg wins. I can't end the streak. That would have been really dumb on my behalf. And yes, as much as I would have loved Curt Hennig to hold that big gold belt, Goldberg beats him. Because at the same time, if it's NWO Hollywood, you got to think Hogan's really the only one ever going to hold the world title. You're never going to think Curt Hennig's going to do it. I couldn't do it in right mindset. I could not do it.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you that when we decided to book this show and I knew that this match was on the card, I was prepared. The last couple of weeks here, I've been preparing myself for that booking choice of having Curt Hennig win the title 6 days after Goldberg wins it, takes the title off him, and you effectively end the streak. I was ready to haul off on you like you wouldn't believe. So that's that was smart booking on your behalf.
I didn't do it because I'm afraid of getting yelled at by you or anybody else on the keyboard warrior side. I did it because I needed to. I did it for The Rock.
No, I understand why you did it, and I know you're not afraid to hear me, go bananas over it. But I do think that you made the smart choice. I mean, how can you have someone with so much momentum lose 6 days after they win the title? And no offense to Curt Hennig, but he wasn't the guy to take the title off of him. So it made a lot of sense for you to keep this. I'm glad you kept it. I thought for sure you were going to throw me a curveball there, but I'm glad we stayed.
Was this match originally already booked for the pay-per-view, and was it supposed to be the United States Championship match, or was this literally what they decided to have Bill Goldberg's first title defense be?
I'm fairly certain it was already going to be a United States Championship match, and then they just switched it to the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, it's just really weird booking that this is Goldberg's first title defense is Curt Hennig. I get it. If it was already booked, it makes sense. And also, you don't want him to just start running through all the main event players. You need him to start. But as we said earlier, this should have happened beforehand. He should have beat Curt Hennig before he faced Hulk Hogan. There's no doubt he should have beat Curt Hennig. He should have beat the Disciple. He should have beat Stevie Ray. He should have beat Horace. He should have beat Horace again and again and again. And then finally he should beat Vincent. I don't know. Who else was in that? Scott Norton. Should have beat them all before he got to Hogan.
I agree 100%. 100%. And that to me is like...
And then beat Horace one more time.
Yeah, that's right. Just make sure you really put an authoritative stamp on that one. I 100% agree. And it also, to me, is built-in booking for the next, 3 months. One, you have the matches on Nitro. You have the matches on Thunder. You do 2 members a week. And you get through, and then that'll at least bring you to maybe the end of August, and then you can really start building the end of August. Maybe you do a War Games with Goldberg in the War Games, and then you have you build to Hogan and Goldberg. I think that the way that they booked it was completely backwards. It's almost akin to the way, I know I always go to this example, but it's almost the way that they booked Seth Rollins and The Fiend. They start off in Hell in the Cell, so it's like now you've won the title. Now you're going to start feuding with the NWO. It makes no sense to me.
I wouldn't have put Bill Goldberg in War Games at this point because you kind of had to do black and white versus red and black, did you not? Unless you were doing like a 3-team War Games like we've had happen in NXT. Then you put Team WCW in there too. And Goldberg, DDP. Who else would you even put on that team though?
I don't know. I guess maybe Goldberg, Booker T. Who else would we have here?
Disco Inferno.
No, it is hard because all the top stars are affiliated with the NWOs. Maybe you could put Booker T at this point because Booker T would have been in it with Stevie Ray.
That's true. Actually, Booker T would have made sense. I guess you could have thrown Rick Steiner in there too if Big Papa Pump's in the NWO.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to do it, but yeah, maybe to your point, that's maybe then instead of having him go into War Games Goldberg, that is, maybe you have him face one of the, you know, I guess 10 pole members. Maybe you have him go over Scott Hall at the Fall Brawl, and then
Or
that's kind
Steiner.
of the last line of defense before he gets to Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I feel like no matter who he faces, you're not getting more than 5 or 6 minutes out of him. But like, this is 98 Goldberg. 98 Goldberg could go. 98 Goldberg could still hit a spear without concussing himself and knocking himself out. He could still hit fucking jackhammers without almost murdering people.
Yeah, that's fair.
Although Crown Jewel, the worst match ever. Bill Goldberg and The Undertaker, worst match ever. I will take Hogan and Warrior in WCW tenfold over this.
I don't agree with that, but
that's because you don't think The Undertaker's capable of having a bad match whatsoever.
Oh, sure I do. I've seen him have bad matches. I just don't think that match is nearly as bad as people think it is.
I just don't understand how you can think that. I truly don't.
Well, I think it's a very good match up until the point that Goldberg gets concussed. And even then, the Undertaker's carrying him for a few minutes after that. I mean, the beginning of the match was actually pretty solid, I thought. Well booked. But, again, agree to disagree.
Fair enough. Well, I guess this brings us to our main event of the evening, does it not?
It certainly does. We have Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman, accompanied by the Disciple, defeating Diamond Dallas Page and Karl Malone in 23:47. What do you have for
Okay,
me?
this thing went way too goddamn long. There is no doubt about that. This should not have been a 25-minute match. No Hulk Hogan match should be a 25-minute match, especially with the Worm and the Mailman. You don't need that. But you look at this. This match is it just came off of the NBA Finals. They had just ended by this point, correct?
Yeah.
So you had the Chicago Bulls beat the Utah Jazz in the finals, which we learned all about last summer when we all watched the Last Dance documentary. And if you didn't, grow the fuck up and watch it. It is one of the greatest things I have ever seen. And I know you agree with me on that.
Yeah, it's outstanding. I can't recommend people watch it enough.
So for the most part, this match stays the same. It's a bit shorter, but I tweaked one thing, and that is that I have DDP and Karl Malone going over. Not clean. It's a DQ finish because we know Hogan's not laying down unless he's getting paid a lot of money, brother. But why not? There's a built-in storyline. The fucking Bulls just beat the Jazz. Why not kind of in a weird way give Karl Malone the win back? Let them do it. It's like I said, it's not a clean finish, but at the end of the day, they're the ones standing tall in the ring after clearinghouse. You get Rodman hitting DDP with a chair. That's how it ends. It's a diamond cutter on Hogan, goes to pin him. Rodman ends up hitting him with a chair. Then the baby faces end up clearing out the heels in the ring when they get their own chairs. They're standing tall. Goddamn Smells Like Teen Spirit ripoff plays. Diamond cutters are all around the diamond cutter, diamond symbol, whatever the hell it is. They're all doing it. The rock symbol, we all know that. The Rockefeller wow, I can't speak today. The Rockefeller symbol from the mid 90s where Jay-Z would throw it up all the time. That's how you end. You give Karl Malone the win back. Again, you're not hurting Hogan. Hogan's the biggest star of all time. Sure, Dennis Rodman doesn't care. He just won the NBA Finals and is worth millions of dollars and about to start banging Carmen Electra. Let Karl Malone have his moment.
I'm actually okay with. I don't hate your booking philosophy here, but my only problem with this is what we've been talking about all episode. So you have Hogan do the job to Goldberg 6 days earlier. I don't see Hogan doing the job to Goldberg and then jobbing to DDP and Karl Malone 6 days later. I just don't see it personally happening. I can see why you did it, and it makes sense to me. But to have Hogan lose 2 huge matches in 1 week, it's never going to happen.
No, you're probably right. It 100% wouldn't, but it's my booking. I get to do what the hell I want. So that's what I did.
No, and you walked us through a nice little match there. I like the idea of it. I mean,
And
you're not
I'm a giant Dennis Rodman fan. I'm not ashamed to admit it, of his basketball and even his involvement in pro wrestling. The fact that he goes and hangs out in North Korea is a little weird to me, but I loved Dennis Rodman as a kid. I loved Scottie Pippen as a kid. I loved Michael Jordan as a kid. We grew up in that era where even if you didn't watch basketball, you knew who the Chicago Bulls were. You knew who the 92 Dream Team were. It was just engraved in you. You can't, like I love the Worm. I just ordered myself a Dennis Rodman t-shirt. I ordered the one that he is wearing in this pay-per-view, the Rodzilla one. It's on its way. I'm excited. But yeah, I still say you give Karl Malone and DDP the win back. We all saw that WWE Untold on it, where you found that Karl Malone was a legit wrestling fan. He wanted to be a wrestler growing up, got into basketball, whereas Dennis Rodman was mainly just there for the payday. So give it to the guy who actually cares about it too.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I really, truly am. I think that you did a good job rebooking this card. In terms of this main event, yeah, I think, and the other thing too is, I guess, because we'd already seen Dennis Rodman before in WCW, so it wasn't like it was his first time there. So I do feel as though, you would have been okay with having them go over, the faces go over. And then I think when you have the faces go over in the first match, there's less of an argument to have the return. So actually, the way they booked it with Hogan and Rodman going over, it actually called for more of a return in my eyes than it did if you'd have DDP and Karl Malone go over. So I think you tied it up nicely. It makes sense. And then we're going to go on to the Jay Leno stuff in about a month later. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Was this Rodman's last appearance?
He might have done.
Because the Savage stuff was before, right?
I don't recall. I don't know. I have to.
Someone let us know.
No, he faced Rodman at
he faced
Road
himself
Wild in 1999.
He faced himself?
No, sorry, he faced Savage. Rodman faced Savage at Road Wild 99.
Okay, so he was back about a year later.
Yes. Yeah, about a year later.
All right. Yeah, cool. I mean, I might go watch that now because fuck, I just have the urge to go watch some Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, I'm going to watch I'm sure you can't wait for this, but as soon as we're done recording, spoiler alert, folks, we're recording on a Sunday morning, which is unusual for us, and I'm in desperate need of a second cup of coffee. But I'm going to watch the WWE Network, I think, after this recording and throw on the Broken Skull Sessions with your favorite mind, Kevin Nash.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
no idea. I just found out that there was a Mick Foley one. I'm a little behind on a lot of things.
Yeah, and I am too, but I'm on holiday now, so I'm going to try to catch up on a bunch of stuff, maybe do some binge watching and things of that nature. So, with that being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, that is Tyrone's rebooking of the WCW Bash at the Beach 1998 pay-per-view. Tell us what you think. Did you love it? Did you hate it? How do you feel about Conan versus Bret Hart? How do you feel about Karl Malone, the mailman, and DDP going over on the NWO heels of Hollywood Hogan and Dennis Rodman? How do you feel about the pay-per-view in general? Let us know on social media.
Let us know how you feel about Kevin Green and the Giant. Let us know how you feel about Eddie Guerrero in the stupid hair versus hair match, losing his mullet. Come on, guys.
Yes, please. Let us know anything. Tell us how you feel about the Big Mac Deluxe. Or is that what it was called?
Grand Big Mac.
Grand Big Mac. Let us know how you feel about the Grand Big Mac.
They did used to have like something deluxe though, didn't they, back in the day?
You know what? I haven't had breakfast yet, and you've been talking about this so much. I might just order myself a Big Mac for breakfast today. It's a holiday. Why the hell?
Do it. Screw it. Who cares? Sunday morning, no rules.
That's it. Yeah, maybe we'll get Big Mac and pancakes. Anyways, this is a conversation for off here, I believe. With that now in the books, the WCW Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. I know, Tyrone, we've discussed, and you said you wanted to do 2 in a row here. So
Oh, no,
we
no,
did
no.
a
I
poll.
never said I wanted to do 2 in a row. I said I would because I missed a couple. So I'm just trying to be nice. So yes, give me the goddamn winner of the poll. I'll do it.
Yes,
I'll
we had.
bastardize a year that you love.
Oh, well, see, I do like this year. It's not my favorite, but I do like it. So we had a poll recently on the Twitter page in which we asked you, our listeners, what would you like to hear Tyrone rebook? With 8% of the vote was Vengeance 2003. With 25% of the vote was Fully Loaded 1999. With 33% of the vote was Fully Loaded 1998. And with 34%, so just a points difference, the winner of the poll and the event that you're rebooking next week, In Your House 2 from Nashville, Tennessee. This was that famous In Your
I'm
House
not
with
gonna
the,
lie. I almost created a bunch of new Twitter accounts just so that I could keep voting for Vengeance 03 because I really wanted that.
yeah, well, clearly our audience didn't, so it's a good thing we didn't do it. Maybe down the road we will, but I think that'll be fun, kind of building off of our theme this year. We started off with covering In Your House 1, then we did King of the Ring last month, so I guess it kind of makes sense to go back to 95 again, and who knows, maybe next month we'll do SummerSlam 95 too, but there was some pretty interesting stuff on this card, and of course you had that Jeff Jarrett concert that was later revealed to be sort of a Milli Vanilli type thing with the Road Dogg, so there's a couple of fun things going on this particular card.
Have I booked In Your House 1 and King of the Ring 95? Like, am I literally the only one who does 95? Oh, no, you did one. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did one. I did King of the Ring, right?
Yeah, you did King of the Ring, and then you're going to do this one, and then if we continue on with our theme, then maybe we'll work it out so that I can do SummerSlam 95.
You can do SummerSlam so that you can keep Diesel versus Mabel in there, or I guess Mabel wouldn't have won the King of the Ring for me. No, it'd be Diesel versus Savio. Hey, there's a main event.
Yeah, there's a main event anywhere in the country. No, I don't think that would be staying. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone, where can our audience find us on social media?
Somewhere. I don't remember. No. On Facebook, Good Friends, Better Enemies Podcast. On Twitter, Good_Enemies. On Instagram, Good_Enemies. Skip the dishes. We're ordering Big Mac Grands like always. And on YouTube, Count It Out 7 YouTube channel. Always available there. Make sure you like and subscribe. As soon as you do that, every Monday when this show drops, you get it right delivered to you. You get a fun little notification. You don't have to search us out. Just do it. Just fucking do it.
100%. And for myself, and for Tyrone, for Pepe the Horse, for Big Mac Grands, and for Karl Malone getting the win back. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast.
Bye. We're going to beat Horace Hogan one more time. Bye.